are. So, welcome to Celebrating Black Moms. I'm so excited that you all could be with us today. We are going to have a conversation that is so important, much needed. We are all mothers, and we are all women who know the importance of speaking up. So, today I want to introduce the panel and then pass it on to our amazing host, Dr. Dee Dee Freeman, who is the wife of Dr. Michael A. Freeman, pastor and founder of Spirit of Faith Christian Church. She's the champion of healthy marriages and an innovator in women's ministry and the founder of Women Walking in the Word, as well as a mother and a grandmother. Next, I want to go to Kim Whitley. Most people will know her from Larry David's groundbreaking HBO series, Curb Your Enthusiasm. And of course, most currently, Act Your Age. Yeah, not your shoe size, act your age. Kim is definitely an actress, a comedian, an activist, an author, a podcaster, and a mom. Then I'm excited to introduce Angela Bergen. Currently, she's an executive for multicultural marketing. Angela trailblazed diversity, equity, and inclusion at AT&T as a marketing executive. She also executive produced a film based on her own true story of a dangerous pregnancy. And we'll hear more about that in a moment. Finally, Tatiana Melendez is the Director of Clinical Services at TTM Counseling and Psychotherapy Services, who has been providing psychotherapy services for the community for over 19 years. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Black women have the highest maternal mortality rate in the United States, almost 3 times the rate of white women. Researchers discovered Black women are more likely to die of cardiac and coronary problems. Former Olympian Tori Bowie was pregnant and recently found dead due to complications, including eclampsia. So I think we are in a time when we've got to speak up, get information, and talk to other folks about our bodies. And I think someone said it before, we know our bodies better than anyone. And so if we don't start speaking up about them, we will find ourselves in a more dire situation. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. And I want to toss it over to Dr. Dee Dee Freeman to lead the discussion. Ladies.
Thank you so much, Holly. This is amazing, really. This is a much needed conversation. Hello, ladies.
Hi there.
Hi. So we're really going to have to jump in here and engage these women because it is so much information out here that we can share and that we could, glean from them so we can bring this awareness. So, we have this new movie coming out, right, with Denise Boutte. They told me make sure it's French. Boutte. Boutte. I mean, the movie is amazing, really. And I think it will heighten the awareness of so many different issues that women, especially women of color, go through. Because in this movie, this woman, she fights not just for her rights, but she also fights for the rights and the issues of, women or babies in general, because she fought for her baby. I don't want to give too much of this information, away, because we really want you to tune in and make sure you watch the movie. But I do want to open up this conversation because, I mean, it's a very dire issue, if you will, in this medical field for women of color. And so I want to talk to you all. I want to hear from you. I want to ask you all some questions. We're not going to really get all deep and all. We're just going to make it plain so everyone can, clearly understand, because women have to take power in their own hands and be their own advocate, if you will. Because too many pregnant women, find themselves in this situation, with their health care, and because it's ignored a lot of times, they don't get the health care that they need. So yeah, let's just open this up. So I want to talk to you first, Kim. Miss Kim.
Yeah.
You're brilliant. You're amazing. You really are. Even you being a mom, what did you think about this movie? And what are some of your thoughts on these statistics that Holly just gave us?
Well, I think the first thing is everyone watch the movie, A Mother's
Watch the movie.
Intuition. When it comes up, Holly can give you more information on when and where. But when you hear the movie is out, make sure you check it out. Of course, Denise Boutet is a fantastic actress. It's dealing with a subject that is all too common. And it's been common. We just weren't having the conversations about this. And my biggest question is why? Why Black women, why women of color are having such disparity when it comes to their health? And that has been an ongoing question. I just had a girlfriend of mine, young girl, pregnant for the first time, and she lost her baby at 7 months. And being that close to someone and hearing what she went through, and it's like I never want to go through this again, because she actually had to give birth to the baby, even though the baby had passed away. And it's all about health and prenatal care and
Mhm.
asking questions. So I know you're. I'm going on, and we're going to have the
No,
conversation.
this is good though.
Okay, but the movie, and I want to say I really enjoyed the movie, and what I just to deal with the movie for a second is that until you are a mother or have a child or mother, I didn't understand motherhood until I adopted my son. I didn't understand. I didn't actually have birth and going through, so I can't imagine the love that a mother has for a child. Like I would die for my son. So
Yeah.
you are literally with this human being that you bring to the world, and this woman loses her child without giving. It was fascinating. When I say fascinating, it was well written, it was well done, it was well produced, it was well directed. It kept me on edge, and I
Yeah.
wanted to know, and it made me want this woman. I wanted her to win.
Mhm.
I wanted her to figure it out. I wanted people to help her. You imagine this woman had no one, and
Mhm.
that's how it is out here.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when you watch this movie, you're going to feel for this mom, but you're going to be rooting for her,
Yeah.
and you're going to want the people that did this to her to go down. But you have to understand, this happens
Every day.
every single day.
Every day. I mean, did you want to jump in the screen and kind of help fight for her?
I did. I yelled
Yeah.
at the screen a couple times. I was like, "Move! Don't do that! Don't let them see you!" Got nervous. I was like, "Oh my God!" They were really doing some CSI stuff.
Yeah.
So it happens every day. But I think the more that we have the conversations, that we can let women know that it does happen, talk about it, and really, for me, the thing I like to say to Black women is don't be afraid to ask the
Mhm.
questions. We go
Right.
into these doctors' office. We feel like doctors are better than us when we're at a certain financial level. They're not. They're
They're
human
not.
beings. They've gone to school. I know a lot of doctors. Just because you're looking at a white doctor, an Asian doctor, someone who does not look like you, does
Mhm.
not mean you can't ask. You have rights. You can ask the
Right.
questions. And if you're not getting the answers from that particular doctor, go find you another one. Go find
Absolutely.
somebody else. So that I'm very passionate about that because I've seen it, I've heard it, that these stories happen, and
Absolutely.
we need to get more of our children into the medical field.
I agree wholeheartedly. You know, I counsel a lot of women, and through the years, I've empowered women to, to use their voice, to speak up, to let them know they do have rights to ask questions. Because, I mean, God knows I was one of them women who wouldn't ask questions, who wouldn't speak up. I always thought they knew more than me. And so I didn't think I had any rights until one day I realized these are practicing physicians. They're practicing. They got information and they're practicing what they learned in school and what they know. And so, Angela and Tatiana, I would love to hear from you guys. Like, what's your input? What was your takeaway? We don't want to give too many details because I really want them to watch so they can see what happened at the end.
Mhm.
Yes. Well, I'd love to just jump in here. I mean, first, I'm so excited. What we're doing here today is what needs to happen. Women talking to women. And so, Dr. Holly, I'm so excited that you've brought us together. Dr. Didi, Kim, Tatiana, it's so wonderful to talk to you all today. For me, when I saw this film, A Mother's Intuition, I mean, this is something that spoke to me. I am the face of a statistic. I'm a walking miracle. I'm someone who was actually given a 20% chance to live. When I actually delivered my daughter, I was considered the sickest person in the entire hospital. And so I am someone who knew early on in my pregnancy, I had a feeling, I had intuition, something was wrong. But despite everyone around me telling me, "Oh, it's in my head. You're not sure. This is your first baby. You don't really know what you're talking about." Having medical professionals dismiss me was something that it caused me to question myself. Mm-hmm. And it caused me to kind of step out of what I normally do, which is being my biggest advocate. And so this movie is something that is so important for us all to see. And number one, not only is all to see, but for us all to believe in our intuition. And so when I looked at the trailer for A Mother's Intuition, there's a part of that trailer that grabbed me. At the beginning, our character, Tony, she was talking about, I think something happened to my baby. And then at the end, she said, I know I saw my child. And so that is the difference for us women. Sometimes we can kind of think, but that intuition is that knowing. That's and good. So you have to listen to yourself. You have to be your own biggest advocate. You can never feel afraid to speak up, to talk, to reach out to others, to ensure that you're getting the best care possible. And so I'm just so excited about this movie because it is going to help us to realize how to use our voice and how to listen to that intuition. And so for me, as I mentioned, I as someone who was not diagnosed with preeclampsia, I wound up throughout the course of my pregnancy having crazy symptoms. I wound up gaining 100 pounds. I gained 15 pounds in 1 week. I couldn't lay flat. When I slept, I couldn't catch my breath. I was having all these symptoms, but I was actually being dismissed. Ultimately, what happened for me is I wound up suffering from heart, lung, and kidney failure. And you talked about a lot of those symptoms at the beginning of this conversation. And I'm one of those people who had to kind of overcome. So I'm walking. A walking miracle, to be quite honest. I'm someone who actually lives today with the results of that. I'm a heart failure survivor. I'm a preeclampsia survivor. But I'm also someone who's joining a collective of women just like this to talk about how important Black moms are and how worthy we are for the best care, how worthy we are to be listened to, and how we should also listen to ourselves. Tatiana,
yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. Thank you, all of you guys, for having me here. I will tell you, I have not finished watching the movie, but my heart just went out to Tony, the main character. I was like, oh my God, this is what we need. Yeah. It's really a reminder that there's just an urgent need to reduce racial, ethnic disparities. And so I thought it was interesting, with the statistics when you mentioned, United States, having the highest mortality rate. And you really have to ask yourself, like, how is this even the case, right? It saddens me that I live in a country where we are the most advanced country in the world and we spend the most money. Why is it that we have the highest mortality rate for child deaths every day? When you look at other countries, there's 49 other countries in a developing world, and they don't have the numbers that we have. And so when you look at Black women, 3 to 4 times more of our people are dying every day due to complications compared to our white counterparts. So, I think the question we really have to ask ourselves is, there's a growing body of research that acknowledges that the role of structural racism is a contribution to the disparities. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference in access. Who actually have access to the services that are needed? So there's not a lot of resources when we talk about African-American women. And so I laugh because I'm like, there isn't anything like in our genes or inherited wrong with us or with our bodies that puts us or raise the risk of complications. So why is this even happening?
But would you? I'm sorry, Tatiana. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, and I was just going to kind of go into, we just came out of a pandemic, and one of the things that, as a therapist, I own co-found a group practice that's based in LA, Los Angeles, California, but I now service almost 13 different states. So this tells you alone that I was able to build a group practice in 13 different states because there aren't any resources for people that look like me. And so it broke my heart that there wasn't even a lot of women of color, even on insurance panels. So there were all these different complaints that were coming in, and I had to get out there and advocate to make sure that someone like me is actually on the panel. And guess what? I was denied a few times.
Oh wow.
And I said, oh no, we are going to make sure the subscribers that are paying you, whether it's whatever insurance company, you have to have someone, And so I noticed that during the pandemic, guess what? The mortality rate increased. It worsened during the pandemic. Why? Because there was no access to care. So where does that actually leave us? So the rate actually went up during the pandemic. We had more deaths during the pandemic.
That's sad. That's a little scary, really. But would you think also that, we don't have these conversations often enough? We've been taught as a people, to me, to be private, to keep our stuff to ourselves. We don't have certain conversations. And so when we ask questions or we talk about different things with people around us, from the same race, it's almost a little taboo because, we're scared of everything. If we talk about this, then it's going to happen to us, and so we have to get into the minds of these ladies to let them know that, no, you need information, that we have to have these conversations so we won't fall prey to ignorance, right? But Tatiana, one of the things I really love for you to address is, how do women of color, if you will, ask these questions without seeming like we're going through some postpartum, trauma and, and being dismissed, because a lot of times we are dismissed when we ask the questions.
Right.
And before she answers that, can I chime in that is really a, without giving too much away, that is really a story, a part of our story, because she was suffering, because Tony's character, or Denise's character, Tony, was suffering emotional trauma with losing her husband. The the doctors felt like, well, that's our angle. Let's focus on her emotional trauma right now. So that will give us the ammunition that we need, or the leverage we need to then switch her baby and blame it on her emotional trauma. And had she just, fell for that, she would have never been able to recover her child. And again, since I'm chatting here, I want to remind you, July 23rd, 9 p.m., 8 Central, A Mother's Intuition airs on TV1. And this is something that we are very, very proud of. Um, I love telling stories, of redemption and inspiration, but something that's different about this is requiring us to wake up and to ask questions. Because I have to say, when I think back of my, the two childbirths that I had with my children, both of them were C-section. But I never thought to ask my doctor anything. I just trusted, the fact that they were African American and they looked like me. I'm like, oh, I need a C-section? Great, cut me up. Just do it because it's hurting. It's obviously not gonna come out through that way.
Just get it out.
Cut me up. But not even thinking, so are you sure? Or should we try something different?
Right.
It's just,
Right.
Back then I just didn't think. So doing this movie, I'm like, wow, there's so many things I missed. And so thank God I had great care, but some people don't.
Yeah. But sometimes we blame it. Now, I agree. I know the stats are true, but a lot of times we blame it on not having great care when it's just that we don't advocate for ourselves the way we should. Going after the information, reading up on certain things. I don't think women know that they are the closest to death that they'll ever be, really, having a baby. And we just don't know these things. Our parents never taught us. We don't learn about it in school. And then being African American or brown women, we don't have access to the information like most do. I had my favorite cousin to die like a week after she gave birth to a baby, and she was having all of these headaches and going through so many things, but people just kind of dismissed it like, you okay, take a Tylenol and get over it. Well, they came in the room, found out, she had just dropped dead right there on the bed. But if somebody would have told her something, or if she would have, went after some information, she would have saw that she was, dealing with this preeclampsia. And so
I would tell you, I have to say that I want to just remind women out there that, doctors are experts in bodies, but you are an expert in your body. So no one is going to know your body like you. And so that is something where you have to just become your own biggest advocate. You have to be vocal, even when you in the face of criticism. And we know that access to care is an issue, but to be transparent, for Black women, it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how much education you have. We're seeing outcomes for Black women to be, dire. And so being able to be vocal, if you're not getting the care that you feel like you need, being comfortable to go to someone else. Being comfortable to ask those questions until you feel confident and satisfied that you're getting the care that you need. And so that is something that Black women need to feel encouraged by, that you can be vocal and that it is not a reflection of putting Black women in a stereotypical box that we may we're talking too much or we're asking too many questions. You can never ask too many questions to ensure that you and your baby are okay.
And I think, Angela, absolutely right. But I think this goes across the board. We talk about pregnancy, but just in general, we go into these doctors' offices and we're not comfortable or we're dismissed. And it's just what it is. And then they're busy and they don't have time for you. If I ever go into a doctor's office and they don't have good bedside manner and they don't sit there and have a conversation with me, I'm out. No, because I don't care about the rest of your patients. I care about me. So you have to, and you can, I know people are like, no, I don't, no, you can always say, I'd like to see another doctor. I was uncomfortable with that one. You can, I don't care what level it is. You can always say that. You can always ask, yes, I'd like to see another doctor. I had a friend of mine went in, had some heart problems. When I tell you this man came in, he was just by the book. That was his personality. I was like, I don't really like him. I said, let's get the other one. And the other one, he called, he did all that. He went the extra mile. And that's what made my friend comfortable. It made me comfortable. So we have to advocate for ourselves, but we don't know this. We have to just push this home, especially if you're pregnant, because your body goes through so much. You got to know something's not right.
Right.
You're like, I got all this gas. Well, you wasn't a gassy person before. And then that's just the baby.
But can I add something really quick? I just want to make sure that we put emphasis, we can have, because I have clients, they go to the doctor, some will go and ask questions and some of them are afraid. However, there's still disparity. The disparity is driven by social and economic inequality. So if you go back and look at where it's rooted historically in the ongoing racism and discrimination. So having the resources mean you have to have some decent insurance. So I have clients, if they're receiving Medi-Cal or Medicaid, or versus as someone who may have a PPO. Now, when they're walking into a doctor's office, that quality of care during preconception, that quality of care, postpartum care, they're not really receiving the care that is needed, all because it's linked to economic, social, and environmental issues. So Black women or women of color are still put at a disadvantage.
Absolutely.
So we have to be able to look at those factors that contribute to that, whether it's biological or genetic, or if it's economics, if it's social class. Because I have clients, they go, they're afraid, but guess what? They're treated just like another number. They go in. I was in there only for 5-10 minutes. I said, well, did you ask the questions? Well, they didn't have time. So I'm like, for me as a mom,
Yes.
I'm like, I'm very concerned. I have to make sure my baby has a certain insurance plan just so she can have a decent conversation, so she
But,
can get answers.
but Tatiana, are you saying just because I have a certain insurance plan, I can't balk back at the doctor? Like
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what I was going to ask.
Yeah,
we have to tell, even, I don't care, Medicare, Medicaid, whatever. Excuse me, doctor, you
right.
get paid. I need an extra 5 minutes, and you can do your head like this and do your
Right.
hands.
But that's because you understand your rights, Kim.
Right. So we have to be able to educate. So what I do
Yes.
tell my clients is I try to empower them, but they're at a disadvantage because they are afraid. They don't know that they can say, hold on, I need another few minutes. I realize, I may have high blood pressure. I want to ask questions. I'm not going to let you tell me no. I'm going to follow my instinct, follow my gut, because I notice something that's different with my body. And you have to almost force these physicians to give you the time that you need. Unfortunately, they treat clients that may not have a certain insurance. That's just because when it comes down to billing, they're like, they have to see. When I spoke to a doctor, he explained to me that he has to see a certain amount of clients when he's taking Medi-Cal. And guess what he said? 10 minutes per patient.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Oh,
Yes.
Wow.
I've
yeah.
heard
If they have Medi-Cal, 10 minutes is all they get?
10 minutes.
So
But
that's
that's
what I was
why I
going
was
to ask
coming
you.
there
Do you,
twice.
do you, wait a minute. I was going to ask you, do you feel like if a patient comes in with Medi-Cal versus a patient coming in with Blue Cross, PPO, they get treated differently?
Oh,
It sounds like
Absolutely.
absolutely, Holly.
That's just what it is. And it's been like that. This isn't
Yeah.
anything new.
And
And most
it's
African Americans or brown people cannot afford Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we're, but before we leave here, I really would love Tatiana just to share, if she has time, Holly, about that. Like, how do you not be perceived as just being somebody crazy, when you're fighting for your rights? I mean, being in, mental health, surely I'm sure you have seen so many women that come in and they're being judged by certain things.
Mm-hmm. So when I think, just in my experience, working with women of color, there's just a lot of distrust and mistrust with the healthcare, system for women of color, period. And, I think we just have to stay focused on the factors, what's really contributing to either whatever's affecting like women's mental health. So if it's unstable housing, if it's transportation issues, if it's racial economic inequality, if it's food, substance abuse, there's so many things that can lead to depression, anxiety, postpartum. And many of these symptoms, I'll tell you, they're present before or prior to pregnancy.
Right.
Because they're at a disadvantage depending on where they grew up, or social economic class. And so I think when we look at perinatal and postnatal mood anxiety disorder, we are simply looking at clinical depression. That's all it is. And clinical depression affects most pregnant women. Most women that I know, prior to, during, or after, they have struggled with depression.
That's all races across the board, would you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. However, women of color, it shows up more pronounced because they do not have the resources. So I'm the therapist. I am going to continue to stand and continue to put emphasis on how important it is to partake in mental health services. We have to make sure that we're pushing our physicians and mental health professionals to be able to put emphasis on, hey, you need to jump into some therapy either during, prior, and even after. However, there's a lack of even women of color or therapists of color, providers. There's the stigma that one of you guys mentioned. There's the limited access to care. And so all this does is just put our women at risk every day. It continues. It's one of the greatest barriers, not having, the care that we need.
So just speak up regardless of how crazy people think you sound or how
Mhm.
crazy you may feel about it. Fight for your rights. And so I
Right.
would love to just give some calls to action, so people can have some takeaways to be able to put it in their pocket and walk away with it and apply it right away because, women are giving birth every day, right? And
Mhm.
so one of the things I think the first one will be to ask your doctor about what signs to look for, with high blood pressure and heart issues in expected mothers. I think that's something that's ignored a lot. And then research. Too often, we're not our own advocates. We don't look up information. We don't understand the healthcare system. And so the first one is to ask questions. And the second one is to do your own research. And then we have to start reporting, these incidents to these hospitals and share our stories like on social media and different platforms so we can, indeed hold everyone accountable for what is happening. And I think my last takeaway would be this: to let's stick together. Let all of us work together. I mean, me, I am way past my baby mama making days.
Are
Thank
you
God.
really? I would have never known that.
Yeah, I
I
know.
would have
Look,
never
I
known that.
tried much later in life, but thank God I'm past all of those days.
Mhm.
But expecting moms have to stay together. They have to work together. Don't make it like it's something wrong with you, like you're an Allen. You don't have to be ashamed of what's happening in your body. We all have experienced something at some point of time in our life. And so we have to work together, right? Wouldn't you all say? Anything you want to add
But
before we sign off?
oh yes, because this space even here is an example of a safe space for Black women to be able to voice their concerns, to be heard. And so we need to do more of this. We need to be promoting groups and support groups to be able to say, hey, it's okay to come and talk about what it is that you may be experiencing. And so when we have this space, I think that this is where we're able to either implement or prioritize education, because most people just lack the education. So if we can establish social support networks, when women are, before they get pregnant, if they know that they're interested in conceiving, having that support groups, I think is very, very important.
Mhm. I agree.
Absolutely.
Kim, you got anything you want to close out with?
Well, you know me, always like the kumbaya. You
I
know,
love it. I
I
love
think
it. Come on, Kumbaya.
women, like you said, women need to talk to each other. If something's going on in my life, like we talk about, hey girl, this where you get the best weave. This where you can, weave and
We
weave. Yeah, girl, this is where I got this dress from. We talk about everything. But if you're an expected mom, you should find other women who've had children. Talk to them and ask them what they've gone through. Sometimes we think we're super women and we can do it on our own, but you can't. Things come up, unexpected things you didn't know about. So I think that's the biggest thing, is to talk to each other, talk to your friends, your aunties, your mamas, your grandmamas. Open up the conversation with them, and people will open up about their experience. That's how I feel about it. And just like you said, all those things, ask questions, and find somebody that you can confide in if there is something you're feeling uncomfortable about. And if that person is not the right person, go to the next person.
go to the next
You
person.
get the right answer.
I love it. Angela, your final thoughts.
Listen to yourself, just like this movie. Listen to your intuition. A mother's intuition can never steer you wrong. Go out there, find your community. Although things are very dire, this is one of those times where we have the most power ever. We can go out to social and find a community of women who may be going through a similar stage of life, and really rally together. And so again, listen to yourself, find a community, and advocate for the best care possible.
I love it. This has been a great conversation. Holly, I would love for you to just kind of give them a little bit more information on, how we can see it again and the times and all of that. And your final thoughts.
I think my final thoughts are right along the lines of what everyone says. Have conversations about it. Talk to your friend, tell a young woman, tell an expectant mother, and also tell those same women to watch July 23rd, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, A Mother's Intuition. As the executive producer of this movie, I am proud of it, and I have been really, really just excited to partner with TV One on it because they have been very specific and very passionate about what this project represents for Black women. And I think that it has made this process worth the effort because we did this in less than a month, honey. We got that script together, got down to Atlanta, shot this thing,
It is
and
excellent.
and it came together, and I'm just so very proud
That's
of
good.
it, and I hope that the audience will love it and will share it with other women and other and other mothers to be specifically.
That's
So
and that
again,
man, that man is there. That man that's in there cute. The man is in there. He is cute. I enjoyed watching that eye candy. So y'all make sure y'all watch this movie, honey.
you said he's cute. He is cute, right? I can't. He's definitely a cutie pie.
Yeah.
But listen, I think thank you guys for doing this. Thank you, Dr. Didi, for
You're
being
welcome.
willing to uh, guide this conversation. It's so needed. It's so needed. And Angela, the fact that you experienced something like this, um, thank you for sharing that story because a lot of people don't want to share. And I'm sure Tatiana, you know that people they
Suffer
just
in silence. That's
yeah,
what
they
that's the most
suffer in
brilliant too.
silence.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. I love that. And before we actually go, you said something really powerful. Sometimes we decide to suffer in silence. But what then does that silence do to us? It cripples us and it prevents us from having other children. It prevents us from wanting to take the next step to do what we need to do to care for our bodies. So I hope that as Black women we will continue to speak up, continue to challenge these doctors, you know, and continue to keep having babies because we need to increase the population.
Absolutely.
And at least with other Black women. Amen. All
Amen.
right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful evening, and we will speak again soon.
All right. Thank you.
That's right. After the movie comes out, we're gonna all get back together.
That's right. That's right.